Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Wherever you are in the world today, I hope that you are doing great. Hope that all is pleasant for you. And most importantly, my friends, hope that you are in good health. Once again, welcome to the Common Sense channel. On this channel, we get to talk about those things that people know, that people have thought about, but don't often have the time to discuss. These, my friends, are the things we discuss here on the Common Sense channel. So, once again, welcome to the Common Sense channel. Today, I want to talk about election. Elections. I want to talk about the institution that runs election, because and I'm going to be asking questions too. And the reason is, it seems to me that elections are only meant for Western countries, because when you look at most of the elections that are occurring in Western countries, you don't see the kind of chaotic um, scenes or situations or events that are happening in other parts of the world, especially in places like Africa or some part of Southeast Asia or Western Asia. But you see that most so in Africa and underdeveloping countries, or as they call them, third world countries. So I just want to be asking questions today, and the questions are, why Western countries don't see the kind of chaotic scene during the election process than say in countries who are trying to mimic, because I'm not going to say practice, mimic Western style democracy, because in this country where I live, election time is a time to, sit in your recliner, pop up some popcorn, or get some nice drink and just enjoy. It's a time you go peacefully, quietly in that booth and do the thing. There's no one chasing after you. There's no one yelling at you. Even when someone talk to you in a way you don't like, you can put up a whole scene right there and draw a lot of attention. No one is politician are not on the necks of another politicians. Maybe they do all that stuff during the campaigning time, but on that specific day, everything is quiet, calm. Not only on that specific day, and from throughout the whole process, you don't see people out there trying to hurt each other, trying to kill each other. Like there's some of the scene I'm seeing from places like Uganda, you know, and you see places like in West Africa, it's sad. And the reason why I think it's sad is because the people that brought this idea to you, I'm talking about you Africans, I'm talking about people in Southeast Asia or Western Asia, or other parts of the world where democracy, because part of democracy, the right to vote or election is part of the institution of democracy, of a democratic society, as they want to say. But why is it that this specific institution often falls short in underdeveloped countries, or in countries where they're trying to mimic, I'm not going to say practice, but mimic uh, uh, Western style democracy, you know, and then they often fall short, like having situation like conflict, people dying. I personally don't think that anyone should die during an election time. I don't think an election should result to violence, where cars are being burned, property are being destroyed, lives are being taken. I don't think that should be the case. So whether I was living in Africa or living here, this would have been the same way I would have seen this whole situation. So now you start to ask the question, who is behind all of this? Why can't these people go through the process, through the so-called democratic process, using this institution of democracy without killing each other, without destroying property, or without destroying lives? Why? It's the question. So on the Common Sense channel, these are the things that I explore. Like why can they be like the people that brought this idea to them? So I was looking and I saw that before democracy or democratic institution, as they want to call them, places around the world had countries around the world, or locations or geographical locations around the world had a way of electing their representatives, or had a way of electing people to represent them that was way contrary to what they've been introduced to now, or what they are trying to mimic. So I say to them, why don't you go back to what your ancestors were doing? Forget about this democratic, so-called democratic institution that's not even working for you. I don't think a civilized world should behave that way. Most of these third world countries will want to consider themselves as civilized. So if you are civilized, or considering yourself to be civilized, then why are you resulting into violence during election time, killing each other? It just makes you look like nothing but uncivilized. When the people that brought this idea to you, they don't do stuff like that. One thing I respect India for, India, I can say India is close to 1 billion, or even if not close. India, the population in India is 1 billion now, billion people. But even if it costs India a week to do an election, they'll do it without losing a life or even destroying property. But let that be in places like Africa. They can't even have an election without someone losing their life or some property being destroyed, burned. And for me, I think if the system is working for you, Africa, I think you see that in part of South America too. There are countries in South America where they have an election and the whole thing is chaotic. My thing here is, if it's not working, there's a saying is, if it's not broken, don't fix it. But if it's broken, fix it. Because it don't look good. You should have an election. It's a time when people can decide according to democratic principles now, or democratic structure, or whatever they want to call it, where you can put the person that you want into power to represent you on your own ideals, your own cultural values, your own religious values, whatever it is that you believe. It's a time you choose someone to represent you in those places, in those various department that you want them to represent you. So there shouldn't be anything chaotic about it. No life should be lost. No property should be destroyed. looking at Uganda. You understand? A civilized society, a civilized country should not be resulting into stuff like that. You know? But then the question again is, who is behind all of that? And one thing, when I look at the African continent, that makes me upset the most is they are not in control of the narrative. And they are just letting the world see that for some reason they can't handle their own affairs. Be on top of the narratives. If there's someone involved is trying to destabilize the electoral process in your country, out these people out. Point these people out. Hunt these people down. Because in the country, if it's a Westerner around causing a problem in your country, find these people. Let the whole world see them. Because they're talking on two sides of their faces. They cannot be promoting something to you that they think is good. It's more civilized, it's decent, it's ethical, it's the right thing to do. And then underneath all of that, they are undermining you. They are undermining the very institution that they have introduced to you. And the worst of all is that in the country, you don't see stuff like that. So basically, they are portraying themselves to look good while they are making your own country look bad. You, especially those developing countries or the underdeveloping countries, you are supposed to be in charge of the narrative in your country. You must never allow these people make your institution bad, whether it's traditional institution or the so-called democracy. Because even in this country, democracy was put to test. Ask Donald Trump, he'll tell you. The electoral process, the election, the entire process was put to test. Ask Mr. Trump. So now it's not relegated to one part of the world. It's not relegated to one people of the world. It's everywhere now. And I think that system either need to be fixed. If all the other systems are rotten to the core, but the electoral process must not be. It must be honest, it must be fair, and it must be straight to the point. No one needs to die because of an electoral process. No property needs to be destroyed because of an electoral process. Africa is one of those places where you cannot have an election where it's peaceful without someone being murdered or killed or property destroyed. This, my friend, must stop, or else change it. If it's not working, change it. But if someone is trying to undermine that process, and you know them, especially in a place like Uganda, now I see on the news, this is not new for Uganda. Why can't they fix the system? Why can't Uganda fix the system? If someone is undermining the process, out these people, point these people out. Say these are the individuals that are instigating the situation that's happening in the country. Out them, call them out. Let the whole world know that they're mellowing your business. And this should happen across the globe. Anyone, whether Africans are doing it, whether Central Americans Africans are doing it, whether South Americans are involved in this election, undermine the basic fundamental foundation of this institution, especially the electoral institution, should call them out. Because I don't think when someone goes out to cast a vote because this is how they feel and this is who they want to represent them, I don't think there should be murder for that. I don't think someone should be in a country trying to instigate a chaos, chaos, instigate conflict so that people can die. And some of these people would have no, they're never going to experience, they're never going to enjoy anything from any of the people that they're going to put in office anyway. They're just doing it because it's their right to. I don't want to say it. Again, the whole process is just a mess. So you don't want to say right, because it's not even stable. But I think it's time. I think it's time that these developing countries, because they're the ones that often have issues when doing, especially during election time. If it's not um, rigging the system or stealing ballots, if it's not bribery, something else. All of these problems were never there in the first place. People used to appoint representatives to represent them based on traditional method. They had their own way of appointing leaders, to certain various position in their countries. I say go back to that. Forget about the Western way of whatever electoral process, whatever is it they're trying to introduce to you. Because I think the problem is everywhere now. It's not just in your country, my friend. The only thing, unfortunately, people are dying from that, which is sad. And people are losing their property on that, which is also sad. But if the system is not working, the two things you can do, my friends. You either fix it or you get rid of it. Simple as that. Fix it or get rid of it. But it must work. You don't have to unlife 10, 20, 30 people or beat them up, hurt them, lock them up in jail for an election. If it's your time, move on. If it's your time to leave, leave. Everyone, there's time for everything. There's time to say bye, and there's time to say stay. There's time to dance, and there's time to sit down. There's time to sing, and there's time to shut up. There's time to wake up, and there's time to sit down. To sleep, I mean. So there's time for everything. But I think if the system is not working, you either fix it or you get rid of it. This cannot keep happening in Africa, whenever I think Guinea had election. Didn't hear anything. I don't know, maybe it's because the guy that was running is a military leader. Could be one of those. But there's no issue. It went smoothly. That's how it's supposed to be. All of these countries in Africa or anywhere where they're developing countries, try to make sure that you're not looking like that. Do an election as peaceful, transparent, quiet, and everybody go their separate ways. At the end of the day, you have a representative government that represent whoever wins. That's what it's supposed to be. But you can't keep having the same scenario happens whenever there's an election, something terrible is happening, people are dying, property are being destroyed, it's just chaotic everywhere. I don't think that kind of system says anything good about a people or a place or a country. Fix the problem. And if the problem, whatever is it you're doing to elect your representatives in your country, if it's not working, get rid of it or fix it. Because at the end of the day, At the end of the day, man, all of you are servant. You're serving your various country. You're serving the people of your country. You don't want to come to power serving the people and then you hurt them in the process. That's not the promise you made to the people to lead them, you know. But you want to lead, but then you're not leading the right way. You're leading the corrupt way, you know. So yeah, man, I just wanted to do this video to kind of talk about the electoral process in some of these countries where they can't even run their own system by themselves in a peaceful, remarkable way or outstanding way where the whole world can look at you and say, yes, this time no one got involved, no one got hurt, and it did it peacefully. And if you're civilized, you ought to do better. But if that system that was introduced to you by these people, these Western countries, if it's not working, change it. There's always the blueprint for everything on the planet. If you think everything on the planet is new, you're blinded. Nothing under the sun is new. Everything that you see, even the so-called democracy, has its roots in something, in a system dating way back. It's just bit and piece and parcel of something put together to develop new idea. So it has its roots somewhere. And you can always go back and look at that. How did it work in those days? And make it work. How did your ancestor elected their own members and infuse that into the process and make it work so that you wouldn't be having conflicts where people are being on live on the streets, you know, like what we see in Africa today. You know, I'm using Africa as a case study, but you can find that in part of Southeast Asia where they have election. You can find that in South America too. Or wherever these underdeveloped countries are, or developing countries are, for some reason democracy is not stable. Democracy is not working. The institution of democracy doesn't work all the time, or most time doesn't work. But in the Western countries, it does. And then none of these people are ever sitting down and saying to themselves, why can't we hold things together? And then every now and then you see representatives from these countries go to oversee this election as if they're overlords to see whether it's peaceful or if it's not peaceful. And then in the process, they are changing regime. They are selecting the people that want to rule those countries or run those countries. So it begs the question, are they the one behind this situation? I don't want to say insurrection, but that could be insurrection in these countries. Or is it just the people themselves? But if they are civilized, they shouldn't be engaging in things like that, or situation like that, or event like that. Killing themselves for who? For what? For how much? How much did they pay you to destabilize your own country? How much? How much did they pay you? What's the interest? Who is behind it? I say to these countries, you need to find these people wherever they are. Find them. Put them out so the whole world can see them. That they are the ones ruining your country. All in the name of democracy. Democracy is not the way. Democracy is not the way. Create your own system. Go back into time. Look at what your ancestor must have done in situation like that. or would have done in situation like that, and try to infuse that into whatever it is that you're doing. It can still work. At the end of the day, it's what the people want, and that's what you ought to do. But yeah, election needs to be free, it needs to be fair, it needs to be transparent, and it needs to be safe, and it needs to be stable, so that people can have hope in the system, so that people can believe that the system works. But if the system is not working like it should, then it's time you have two things to do. Either fix it or just get rid of it. You know what I mean? Even in this country, when things don't go, in the United States, when things don't go right with election, they look into it too to see why it keep happening, why the situation happened in the first place, whatever it was that the other side was complaining about. They do investigation on that. Why can't that happen in places like Uganda, or places like Kenya, or places like Nigeria, places like Ghana? And I don't want to say Ghana, Ghana a little bit different. Places like Sierra Leone, places like Niger, or places like Congo or Kenya, or places like Central Africa. Why can't they sit down, come together, create a body to look into some of these things? Why is it that that same situation keep happening over and over every now and then when there's election seasons? The whole country is in fear that something terrible is going to happen, when it's just to be a day where you can just chill, relax, grab yourself some popcorns, whatever it is that you drink, and just go cast your vote. Why can't it do that? You understand? Who is instigating this situation? Who is causing the problem? Who is creating the tension? These people must be outed. And if they're found, let the whole world know that they are the ones destroying the very institution that you are trying to build as a civilized society, as a civilized country. Because civilized people don't behave brutal. Civilized people are not, do not kill each other, do not hurt each other, do not burn down the very institution that they helped build. Civilized people do not beat up people on the street, put them in jail, all because they are protesting something that is the constitutional right. Civilized people don't do that. You understand? Civilized people don't burn down institutions, businesses, buildings. They don't kill each other. Civilized people don't do that. I don't care what your views are about that election, I don't care how you feel about that election. I don't care about your emotion. You don't go do these things because of an election. So if it keeps happening, something must be done so that it doesn't repeat itself. And if it's not working, change it. Get rid of it. It's two things you can do. But do something. It doesn't throw a good light on the country either. It's like little kids. You can't handle your own affairs. You need a referee. Or you need someone to come and help supervise something that you can do by yourself. So something needs to be done to make sure the electoral process of any country, that electoral process, that it works in a better way, in a more transparent, in a more as it should work, as the system itself should work, or as the institution should work, so that everyone has hope and believe in the system, that the system can work for them. So as I've always done in all of my videos, to say this, the greatest thing, my friends, that could ever happen to anyone, to you, It's not the day you were born, not the day you had your first child, the day you graduated from high school, college, the day you became a lawyer, doctor. Whatever it is that you're working on, my friends, the greatest thing that could ever happen to you is the day you discover yourself. Because from that day on, everything, my friends, would start to make sense to you. Again, I want to thank all those people that watch my videos. I want to thank those people that are subscribed to my channel. Hope that you are doing great. Hope that your family is well. And most importantly, I hope that all is pleasant for you and that you are in good health. Thank you and have a pleasant day.